So, how can we use BrightLocal to improve our rankings? Well, to answer this question, the first report I'm going to demonstrate here is the Google Business Profile Audit. This report does require a Google Business Profile, so if you haven't yet got one set up for your business, I would definitely recommend making that a priority. And in this report, we can start to identify how we can optimize that Google Business Profile. Your Google Business Profile is really important for that relevance factor. And this is because Google gets a lot of information about your business from the Google Business Profile. Google can also surface your Google Business Profile in search results, such as in the local search pack, which, if you're unfamiliar, is when a top 3 ranking businesses for a relevant search term appear at the top of a results page, typically accompanied by their Google Business Profile. When it comes to optimizations, there's a few things that we can check here. Firstly, is the Google Business Profile claimed and verified? Are we using the correct website URL provided? Are the name, address, and phone number details correct? Have we got the correct opening hours listed? And are we using relevant photography of the business? Below, we can get a snapshot of some of the most recent reviews from our Google Business Profile, and we can check if we've got any suspected duplicates for the Google Business Profile. If you aren't aware, duplicate profiles can actually be quite harmful, so we'd want to get them taken care of if that's the case. We can do a comparison of the name, address, and phone number details provided in BrightLocal versus what's currently live on the listing. So we can highlight any discrepancies we might want to go ahead and amend. Just to note here, Google is intuitive enough to recognize formatting in the address and phone numbers. For example, street and ST, Google understands they're the same thing. Same with country code formatting for the phone number. Essentially, if we can drop both addresses into Google Maps and get a pin at the same place, or we can ring through both phone numbers and get through to the same line, please rest assured Google will understand they're the same. We can also get some insights into some other ranking factors, which is more so attributed to the on-site of the website connected to the Google Business Profile. However, any small optimization is ultimately going to give you a better chance of ranking locally. So we want to check, for example, is the city name used in the landing page's title tag? Is the state present within the landing page's title tag? Just some small things we really want to ensure to give us the best chance of standing out to Google. Finally, on the Google Business Profile Audit, we can input up to 5 keywords and again start to benchmark how we're performing for those keywords against our top competitors. For example, for law firm, we can see the top ranking competitors and again start to compare some metrics and identify how we might actually be able to outrank them for that keyword. The main difference between the data we see in this report versus the local search grid we explored in the previous lesson is that this is being performed from one specified search location, as we can see in the top right here from Charlotte, versus those individual grid points we saw previously on that local search grid report. Next, we're going to look at citations, and we have a couple of tools in BrightLocal surrounding citations. We have the citation tracker and the citation builder. When working with citations, typically this is managed on a spreadsheet, and as you can imagine, this can very quickly become convoluted, and so the citation tracker is going to make it much more easily manageable. What this report does is pulls all of your existing listings into one place and starts to highlight any suspected name, address, and phone number errors, or even any duplicates. The citation builder, on the other hand, is a BrightLocal service where we'll go and fix citations for you, or even create new citations. We can even remove harmful duplicates. But before we get into Citation Builder, I'd always first suggest running a citation tracker report to see the current state of your listings. On the citation tracker report, the first page we're going to see is our key citations list. And this is a list generated by BrightLocal based on the location's location and business category to help identify what exactly are the top directories, which ones are we really going to want to focus on and prioritize when it comes to maintaining that data, or even if we want to create new citations, which ones we want to focus on. With that in mind, we generate a key citation score, which is based purely as a BrightLocal metric on how many of these top directories we're currently listed on with the correct details. If we scroll down, we can see a list of all of these top directories based on our location. A lot of these names will be quite familiar: Google, Apple Maps, and Facebook, for example. And we can see where exactly we're listed and what data is currently being listed on those directories. Anywhere we have any gaps presents some really great opportunities to build out new citations going forward. Likewise, any highlighted discrepancies, as we can see here in red, indicates that we might want to prioritize getting these directories fixed before we start looking at our other citations. Should we want to get some more information about these suspected errors, we can click the three dots, which will open our citation information window, so we can get some deeper insights into what may need to be corrected. And if we do have any possible duplicates, we're really going to want to make sure that we have those removed. Duplicates can be harmful to our rankings, so we want to make sure we've got one unique listing per business, per directory. When it comes to creating new citations or even fixing these citations, there's two routes we can go down in BrightLocal. Firstly, we can manually correct these citations by going to that directory from the View Citation in a New tab option here. Should you have the login credentials to be able to make those edits or changes yourself, you can publish those changes, and when we come back and rerun the report, those changes will be reflected here. If you don't have the necessary login credentials to make those changes yourself, I generally recommend reaching out to that directory support to get their assistance in changing the information should it need to be corrected. Alternatively, as I previously mentioned, we do have the citation builder tool in BrightLocal, which is where you want us to go and do the hard work to create more citations, fix errors, or even look to remove some of those duplicates. All you would need to do is provide us with the business details you'd like us to publish on your behalf, and then from a list of directories that we're able to work with, you can pick and choose exactly where you'd like us to submit to. Once you've ordered your campaign, you'll be able to see a campaign report where you can monitor the progress of that campaign. Next, we have the Reputation Manager tool. Reviews are really important for that prominence factor, but also relevance if your services and products are being mentioned throughout review text. We break the Reputation Manager down into three main sections. We have Monitor Reviews, Get Reviews, and Showcase Reviews. The Monitor section gives us an overview of our reviews and a summary that includes the average star rating, the number of reviews, and an idea of our review growth or our review frequency over time. Under the Review tab here, we can see a list of all of the reviews that have been pulled in from the connected source sites, all in one place. So it makes it nice and easy to manage them, as opposed to having to keep tabs on multiple directories. Under the Actions column here, we can go and view that review on that review directory, and there we can respond to it. When we come back into BrightLocal, we can mark the status of that review. So whether we're working on that by ourselves or with a member of a team, we can really keep track of our work here. Should we connect the Google Business Profile and or Facebook here, we can actually respond to those reviews from directly within this report and make use of additional features such as our review response templates, or we can generate review responses via the magic of AI. The next section, Get Reviews, is all about being proactive about building our review count, our average star rating, hopefully, and increase the frequency of our reviews. The three things that Google really looks for as reviews as a ranking factor. So here we can start a review generation campaign. We can use an existing template if we've already set one up, or we can create a new template, duplicate them, edit them, however you need. Should we create a new template, we can see that we've got a couple of options here. We can either ask for internal feedback with a public review, or just ask for a public review. It really is down to preference here. However, please note we can't prevent a customer from leaving a public review. That does unfortunately go against Google's guidelines, so either way, they're going to have that option for that public review. Next, we need to build that template. So we just need to give it a name. We can apply our logo. We can choose exactly which type of internal feedback we'd like to acquire, whether that be an NPS score, a thumbs up or thumbs down, or even a 5-star rating. Next, we can determine what exactly we decide is a positive or negative review, and we can enable or disable that additional feedback or only include it for negative reviews, for example. Next, we can begin to format what exactly that review journey is going to look like for the customer. On the left here are the fields that we're able to edit and format, and on the right is what the customer might see if they were looking on a mobile device or desktop. As we work through the template, we have options to format for email requests, for SMS requests, or even what we refer to as a link mode URL, which is a hyperlink you can implement in any format, such as a QR code or a hyperlink or a button on your website, which doesn't require outreach to the customer necessarily. Once we're happy with how that template looks, we'll next need to select up to 3 review source sites where we'd like to provide the option for the customer to actually leave their public reviews. We do provide an extensive list of review sites, as we can see. However, I generally recommend Google and Facebook as the best go-tos here. Next, we can choose whether we'd like to be notified of feedback via email. So whenever a customer responds to that review request, I would recommend opting in here, so that way, if we need to respond to that review, we can do so in a timely manner. And then finally, we need to select our request method. So as I mentioned, we can send email campaigns or SMS campaigns in both multiple or single use cases. We can get that request mode URL. So this URL we can implement in really any medium we see fit, but we also can use the kiosk mode URL, which is really ideal for, say you've got a physical medium at your physical location, so a tablet on a reception desk, for example. We can have that kiosk mode URL loaded up on that device to be primed and ready to collect reviews at all time. The third and final section of the Reputation Manager is Showcase Reviews. Here we have the option to display reviews on our website by the following methods: list widget, carousel widget, or if you're particularly techie, the raw JSON feed. We can edit the reviews that are being displayed on the widgets by clicking Edit Widget or Create if you've yet to set one up. Here we can see a list of all of our reviews from our Monitor Review report, and we can select the position that we'd like them to appear in the widget. Or we can utilize the Auto Select Review features with a number of filters, such as we only want 5-star reviews from the last 7 days from a particular review source site. Next, we can play around with the design and format of the widget by either using one of our design presets or playing around with the layout, container, text, or even review options here. Once we're happy with our widget, we then need to copy the code into the HTML of our website, and that widget will integrate seamlessly with our business website. So we've discussed how we can optimize our Google Business Profile, how we can manage and build citations, and how we can monitor, get, and showcase our reviews. That concludes this lesson. However, please do join me for the final lesson, which is how we can track our progress and know we're doing well. I'll see you there.